Well, that was WrestleMania 29. Well, folks, and what do I have to say about it? Um, it was a good WrestleMania, but it didn't feel like WrestleMania. It wasn't, spectacular like most WrestleManias. It felt like, another pay-per-view or an extended Raw. You know, that's just my opinion. But there were some really good matches, but for the most part, I wasn't too crazy. I did love I did love a few matches, but I'll get to them in a moment. Now, as for my predictions, you'll be surprised at the amount of predictions I've got. I got about half of the predictions right. I was hoping to get all of them right, but half is good enough for me, or almost half, if you count the pre-show. If you don't count the pre-show, it's definitely half. So anyway, let's get on to what happened in WrestleMania and what I think of the matches. I have the list right here once again. So let's start with the pre-show. The Miz versus Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship. I predicted that the Barrett would retain the Intercontinental title, but I was wrong in that prediction. I don't know why, but somehow The Miz won the Intercontinental Championship on the pre-show and not on the pay-per-view. Now, let me get this rant out of the way. Why would they have a title change on the pre-show, which is on YouTube, and not on the pay-per-view? That doesn't make sense. Like, the people who are paying for it are missing out, and then you have to watch it on YouTube for free. Isn't that stupid? That match should have been saved for the pay-per-view. And it wasn't that great. It didn't feel like a WrestleMania match, but it would have been suitable for it because it was a title change. So you basically cheated on all the people who paid $70 and they missed out on the IC title match. On top of that, there was another match that was supposed to be on. It was the Brodus Clay, Tensai, and the Funkadactyls versus Rhodes Scholars and the Bella Twins. And guess what happened? It got canceled! So they put the Intercontinental title on the pre-show and put the mixed gender match on the pay-per-view, only to have the latter get canceled. Does that make any sense? WWE, please learn to set up your matches. Learn to book properly, please. Please do not do this again next year. Please. Okay? God, you people are idiots. Anyway, moving on to the first match of the pay-per-view. It is Sheamus, Randy Orton, and the Big Show versus The Shield in a 6-man tag match. I predicted that Sheamus, Orton, and Big Show would win, but once again, I was wrong. The Shield won. And no, none of them turned heel or betrayed one another to join the Shield. However, the Big Show did attack Orton after the match ended. Basically what happened was, I think Sheamus was going to tag the Big Show, and then Orton out of nowhere tagged Sheamus so he can enter the match, and then Big Show looked really pissed. And then, Orton was on fire. He kept RKOing people. And then Dean Ambrose came in, I think. He attacked Orton with a splash from the top rope, and that was it, and he pinned him. And the Big Show did not help at all for some strange reason. And then the Big Show came in, and then he punched Orton or something. And that was the end of the match. But I don't think the Big Show's part of the Shield. He just got pissed. Yeah. So that's my second prediction wrong. Anyway, but as for how good the match was, it was a good match, but it felt like raw material. or SmackDown material, not, you know, WrestleMania material. But it's an early match, so I'm not criticizing it. It was still a good match. And next, Mark Henry versus Ryback. This was easily the worst of the entire WrestleMania card. This match was pretty bad. It was boring. It really, really sucked. Just god-awful. Anyway, I predicted that Ryback was going to win because he was well over the fans. You know, they were cheering for him, and he's been pretty dominant for quite a while. But I was wrong somehow with that prediction, and the actual result was that Mark Henry would win. And yeah, it was a terrible match overall with a terrible result. It was boring as fuck, and yeah. Moving on is Team Hell No, Daniel Bryan and Kane, versus Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston for the WWE Tag Team titles. Another good match, but it wasn't too, you know, exciting, you know. My prediction was that Team Hell No would win, and the result, Team Hell No won. That was the first prediction that I got right. Now, I was worried that all of my predictions would be wrong because I got 3 consecutive predictions wrong in a row. But finally, I got a prediction right. So yeah, Team Hell No won. Restore the tag titles. Good match, but nothing, you know, woo or exciting, you know. Next up is Chris Jericho versus Fandango. Good match, and I was really surprised that at how Fandango won, even though, and how he performed in the match, even though, you know, he wasn't, you know, amazing in the ring, but he performed better than I expected. And my prediction was that Jericho would win because, you know, he's a far better wrestler, and, you know, Fandango is kind of a rookie, so I didn't think he would win this early, but to my surprise, Fandango won. Or, I'm sorry, I've been pronouncing his name wrong for quite a while. It's Fandango. Remind me and never say that again, please. That's just awful. Fandango. Anyway, moving on. Next up is the World Heavyweight Championship match. Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger. This was the second prediction that I got right. I predicted that Del Rio would win, and the result was that Del Rio won. He is still the World Heavyweight Championship. It was a decent match, you know. It was alright. It wasn't, you know, too great, but whatever. So yeah, second prediction right. And moving on to the last 3 matches. The next one is Undertaker versus CM Punk. Now, this is a no-brainer, guys. Everybody knew the Undertaker was gonna win, but that was easily the best match in the entire card, the entire WrestleMania 29 card. It seems that lately, even though Undertaker is way past his prime, he puts out really, really, really good matches in his WrestleManias. And he continues to be undefeated, and that is very impressive. So, he truly delivered. Just like last year, the year before, and the year before. He's been performing really good matches since WrestleMania 25. His WrestleMania match, Undertaker's WrestleMania matches have been nothing but have been spectacular, I gotta say. Next up, Triple H versus Brock Lesnar in a no-holds-barred match, and if Triple H loses, his career would be over. Now, I honestly predicted that Lesnar would win because, you know, Triple H is the COO. I think he's like, in real life, he's like the executive vice president of talent or something like that. he had the same position Johnny Ace had, and JR before him. But again, I was surprised. Triple H actually beat Lesnar in the match. Now, as for how good the match was, it was a pretty damn good match. It's actually better than most of the matches before it, but not as good as Undertaker vs. Punk. So far, I'd say that was the second best match of WrestleMania 29. I didn't like the result, though. I wish Lesnar would win, though. But what can you do? And the last match is the main event, of course, The Rock versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. Again, this was an easy one. John Cena becomes new WWE Championship. I predicted this. I knew Cena was gonna win. The Rock is a part-time movie star, and I knew he was gonna win. I knew he was gonna lose to Cena at this time because, you know, after the Road to WrestleMania period ended, The Rock would go back to movies. You know, The Rock is usually in WWE programming during special occasions like the Road to WrestleMania period. And yes, I was right. Cena won the championship. And, you know, The Rock is going to go back to Hollywood once again. Is that really a surprise? The match was good, or average, you know, average to good in my opinion. It felt like a rehash of like last year's WrestleMania, only with different results, in my opinion. So, yeah. Now, overall, as for predictions, number of predictions I got right, there were a total of 9 matches, and 1 match was a pre-show match. Out of the 9 matches, I got 4 predictions right. That's nearly half of the predictions I did in my last video. Now, as for how good the WrestleMania was overall, I'm not going to rate it because, you know, I don't feel like rating it. And if I use like my gold, silver, bronze, platinum rating system for my game reviews on my other channel, it would probably alienate most wrestling fans who come across this video. But, oh well. Overall, it was good to average, you know, in my opinion. I'd say maybe between a 6.5 and a 7 if I had to rate it. So yeah, this really wasn't the best WrestleMania, but, you know, I don't think it was a terrible WrestleMania either. Not far from terrible. So anyway, this is my thoughts on WrestleMania 29 and my reactions to my predictions. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm AliRx, and I tell it like it is.